Hey, my name's Mark A. Bell. I'm the chair of the Grants and Data Subcommittee of the Athens in Motion Commission, and this is our regularly scheduled meeting to discuss grants and data. So welcome if you are listening. If you are listening, why don't you have anything better to do? I'm going to share the agenda for today.
So somebody did share the fact that this meeting was taking place on Twitter today.
Okay,
So we
great.
could potentially have a drop in.
Sounds good.
I did receive a call. I tried to return their call, but it didn't go through. But someone was interested in hearing more about it earlier
All
today.
right. Well, here is the it somehow is showing all of my Microsoft Word documents, including my response to a recent study, a journal, peer reviewers. But in any case, mainly we just want to catch up with Daniel about grants, and I think to find out what we can do or how we can be helpful as he gets ready, and he and the city get ready to submit these grants.
Awesome.
Yeah, so find it again. Here it is. So the bridge improvement grant is the first one on the agenda. And first of all, any additions to the minutes? Anybody have anything they want to add that's not already there?
Let's talk about bike-friendly communities.
Okay.
It's not on there.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll just put that under data projects. Oh yeah, there we go. All right. So the bridge improvement grant. Do you want me to go ahead and get started, Mark?
Yeah, I'd love you to get us caught up on where you're at with each of these, and then
Yeah.
I'll keep some notes here in terms of what you need from us.
So
Be helpful.
yeah, basically what we're looking at, so there's a lot of federal funding coming out right now. We're trying to keep up with it all. And we've requested internally that we have a grants committee kind of made up of various departments. I think every time a new NOFO comes out, notice of funding opportunity, I get 5 to 10 emails letting me know about it, which is great. It's much better than the opposite. But you know, there's a lot of cross communication, a lot of people hearing about these, and so I think it would be helpful to have a staff kind of, or even like just a committee that could look at all of the grants and kind of help fulfill. Because I mean, a lot of grants may have something to do with transportation, or it might not. Or there's could be something in my narrative that could help a different grant. So that's something we've been looking at. But for the bridge replacement grants, bridge improvement grants, that is a, there are two programs. One is for replacing a bridge and doing the actual implementation of it. These all have to be on the inventory of existing bridges within GDOT, I believe. But there's there's maybe a national inventory list, and the other, so that would be for a full replacement. And then there's a lot that needs to be in place, already done, such as environmental studies and a lot of things that we don't currently have. The other part of this grant is a planning grant, which would be just what it sounds like. It plans out the prioritization of those bridges. And so I've been in conversations. We've got a consultant helping us put together this application. I might be coming to you guys to discuss the bridges that we end up going with. I think there were 13 that were chosen. And my plan is to
Now, this would be for planning or for implementation grant?
Oh, so this is for planning.
Okay. Are there any that are at the phase where they could qualify for implementation or not?
Potentially one, but I need to get more info on it. And that would primarily be me writing that, but we'll get to that one. Okay. Because there's two different deadlines. The first one is like in July, and that's the planning grant. And we have 13 bridges that's going to be included in that, and that's based on our old score. And then the grant would be to basically get these bridges planned out, figured out, moved up into the prioritization. And where we come in is I'm going to be looking at our Athens in Motion Tier 1, 2, and 3 projects to just establish if these bridges are on like a Tier 1 route, then that would show a higher need for connectivity. That being said, personally, I kind of feel like all the bridges should have pedestrian and bike stuff worked into them. And that's what I'm going to be pushing for. But it would help to know the tiering so that we can get a good idea of like when something is going to happen.
Right.
So that's
Is the one bridge that I always think about is Prince Avenue as it crosses the 10 loop, which is potentially could be used by cyclists who are heading out of town, but is currently not very bike friendly or pedestrian friendly.
yeah, all the above. That's a GDOT bridge, so it is not in the scope of this grant because.
Oh, I misunderstood you then. I thought you said it had to be a GDOT bridge.
Sorry, it had to be on the inventory, the national bridge inventory. I meant to say national, not GDOT.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
GDOT has their own kind of schedule, and I don't know that
Yeah,
they might
don't
be
have to worry
applying
about
for
that.
this grant, but I have some ideas about that spot. But I digress.
Right, rail with trail.
My thought on that brief version of it is I'm curious if that would be a good design location for the reverse diamond interchange, which it switches the traffic from the right side of the road to the left side across the bridge and then back over to the right side. And it allows for kind of smooth movement of cars to get onto the ramps. And then you can also retain space for the bike on the right-hand side. And so there's fewer conflict points.
Do you have a picture of that anywhere, Daniel?
I don't want to get too digressed here.
We don't
I'm sorry. I want to keep us on track because I'd like to get this done by 5-ish.
Yeah,
So sounds like an interesting idea, but I'd really like to keep us kind of focused.
for sure.
That's not in scope for this grant.
The one that could possibly be for implementation is the pedestrian bridge on Mitchell Bridge Road.
Right.
Because that project is ongoing and we are actively currently working on the plans. So what I'm hoping is that it is along a bridge connection that is within the national inventory and it is lacking pedestrian connectivity. So we think that it would fit within the goals.
Okay, great.
So I'll let you guys know when we get started on that one. This first one is just the planning, and then that one is a couple of months after that. So it might be helpful to get I might end up having to lead that one.
Would the planning grant involve prioritization of those 13
It would.
projects? Okay. And is that something where you would just go with the existing prioritization? I know we've been talking about, redoing the prioritization within the Athens in Motion plan in the near future. But it sounds like this planning has to go in now, so it's probably going to rely on the older tiering.
The prioritization, I think, would be more based on the current bridge status and assessments and like conditions.
Okay.
It goes towards replacing the older, more
Gotcha.
failing bridges,
Right.
which depending
we
on
don't want in our community, right?
ours were failing a couple of years ago, and then like the year after that, suddenly the scores bumped up again, and so we didn't do anything to make the bridges better. But we got some more info about how something like that can happen. Usually, it's just a change in personnel. Someone different is scoring it, so I don't think it was anything malicious. But anyways, that's kind of where we are with the bridge stuff.
Okay. Will you need anything from our committee or the commission?
I will reach out if I do. Right now, I'm not positive.
Okay, great, thanks. Complete Streets Leadership Academy. I read about that. That's a kind of almost a sort of a training program.
It's a pilot program. You would know more about it than I do. It was sent to me from our Safe Routes to Schools coordinator, And then I looked through it enough to see that it actually needed to be applied by GDOT, but in partnership with local communities. Is that something do you think would fit our mission if we help GDOT apply for this?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, from what I could see, it would, you know, I'd have to go back and look at it again, but it seems like it would help to, focus GDOT's attention on our community in a positive way and help us to get maybe priority for some of the projects we think are important. So,
Cool. I saw it was like 30 hours a month or something estimated, or maybe it was over the course of the program, 30 hours of committed time.
I thought it was over the course of the program, but
That's
I
right.
could be
Okay.
wrong.
Well, cool. Well, yeah, I'd love to see how we could see what we could do to help GDOT. I hadn't gotten a chance to. We reached out to Ron. He's a bike and pedestrian engineer in the Office of Safety, and he. I think it would be helpful to talk with him more about like if they were going to apply for this, what could we do to help them? So,
Okay.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that?
Nothing else. Anybody else?
I look forward to getting more information on it.
So they're due July 29th. And they have to submit an application form, and then they have to submit a supplemental application form for each co-applicant, which would be any locality that they're partnering with. That might be a tough pull in 24 days.
Mhm.
So if you're going to talk to someone, Daniel, it's going to have to be soon.
So, I mean, yeah, like, what do y'all like? Because we have a lot of stuff that's coming up on the docket. So, what are thoughts?
I mean,
Is it
I would say it's
gonna be
probably a lower priority than some of the other things where we'd actually be getting funding and being able to build projects. But
Okay.
Is it a one-time opportunity, or do you think they'll repeat it?
Probably repeating. I'm not sure.
I think it'll repeat. It looks like it's happened before, actually.
I'll get in touch with them and see if there's something. But yeah, I think, I mean, if it's too difficult to swing, then we have other higher priority projects. So
I think the leader, would the person going through it be you?
seems like GDOT would be doing the heavy lifting.
GDOT and
No, I mean, but somebody attends the leader. Somebody is the leader who attends the Leadership Academy, right?
yeah,
The local community.
I don't know. That's a great question. I haven't read it, so I kind of forwarded it along. I wanted to get y'all's feedback.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now.
My understanding would be that it would be somebody from GDOT and somebody from each of the communities that was identified. I mean, but state and local participants will form a cohort and attend about 30 hours of workshops spread out over 3 months, some virtual, some in person.
8 to 15 individuals.
Would
So
it be local government or like our local, like would y'all group be included?
I would think it would be government, but
the ideal cohort will include transportation and public health professionals from multiple departments and partner organizations.
Public health.
Public health, Mark.
yeah.
Don't you want to be a leader?
No,
He is a leader.
it's overrated.
It certainly is.
All right. Well, we could I'll talk with Ron and see if he is working on this or if it would be kind of a heavy pull for us to push them to do it. Then I'll probably
They've got to be into it. I wouldn't be trying to push them to do it. If they're into it, great. If not,
absolutely.
So the local application is not difficult. I'm looking at it right now. It's less than 2 pages of questions that we've answered for other proposals already, more or less. So on our end, it would not be that difficult to put together the part that they would need. So it's a matter of if GDOT wants to do it. They're the ones who have to form a cohort that includes whatever localities want to participate or they want to partner with.
Right.
So I just wrote down, Daniel will talk to GDOT to see if they're applying, and if so, would they like us to be one of the communities?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
And if not this year, maybe next. All
Yeah.
right, Safe Streets for All grant. That's the
All
other
right.
big one, which is good. We're looking at an implementation grant there, right?
Yes, $30 million implementation grant. It's one of those things, I had everything I needed up, and then my computer restarted on the audit thing. And I'm having to reopen all the things, but I am trying to pull that up and I can share my screen once it comes up. But until I can get it, I'll just go ahead and verbally. So $30 million implementation grant. Right now, what I'm thinking is $20 million towards, did I already tell you guys the breakdown last time?
Yes.
It's like 20 million towards Athens and Motion Tier 1 projects. And then 5 million towards reinstating the sidewalk gap program. And that would include an analysis of all of our sidewalk gaps and prioritization, and 5 million to start filling in those gaps. That's something that is mentioned in the Athens in Motion plan. And so that's why I would want to include that, because all of the things need to be in the plan.
Mm-hmm.
$4 million intersection improvements, which would sometimes install new fiber and sometimes just swap out intersection like traffic signals with, basically there's the intersection improvement T-SPOS project that we could use as the matching funds for that section of it. And this would allow for both better data collection and improved safety at intersections. But we'd swing it more towards the data collection part, because that was one that was highlighted in the Athens in Motion plan, is improved data collection, data quality for both crash and just movement. And so we'd want to make sure that those intersection improvements included new counters or something that could look at bicycles. And the fiber is the important part of there, because really to get the good stuff, you need to add fiber to get the good quality data things. So we're going to put in more, that section is going to talk about data goals, that kind of stuff, and to show more data gathering, like I mentioned. So, and then we want to focus on the livability of our community. I was talking to someone about this from that worked on the grant stuff. And the idea here is to ensure people can live, walk, and bike to their destination. Another data thing would be $500,000 for streetlight data subscription for 5 years. That's where they use.
So this is within the Safe Streets for All grant still?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, all within the Safe Streets for All. This is just the breakdown of what that 30 million would be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's $500,000, and that aggregates location data from a lot of different sources, but it doesn't have any like personal info attached to it. So it actually allows you to see road metrics on all the roads, and it includes bike, pedestrian, transit, car, and you can see that cross section and speeds and all that kind of information. So and it also gives you a demographic breakdown of the percentage road users and who is this affecting. And so there's a lot of really great stuff. If we do get that, I'm working on getting kind of a pilot license for it right now. So maybe 6 months to a year for 1 year. And then we could potentially use that in our Athens in Motion planning efforts, because that is a huge data gap that we didn't have before that we could potentially have. I just need to get some investment. So from our government, from other departments and stuff to partner on that. We would also include $200,000 for a Vision Zero plan, development of a Vision Zero plan within this grant. That is within the supplemental plan activity section, and that is also something that is highlighted in our Athens in Motion plan, and $150,000 for vehicular, bike, and pedestrian counters. So these are like permanent install locations that we could put out once we have the data for where users are at. So that's 150,000 there, and then 100,000 for Safe Routes to Schools plan, and $50,000 for a wayfinding plan. Those are just some other things that we kind of call out as we need to do these plans. So I'm gonna copy and paste this in chat for you.
Mhm.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Uh-oh. Okay. So we also got a sorry, one second. Okay. There's the breakdown in money. So I worked with Jake to create a timeline for the grant and kind of aggregate everything that needs to be done. My computer really does hate me. See if I can get this to open. Okay. Okay. So, share my screen. Come on, keep me to it. Okay. I went ahead and created an outline for like just like the rough narrative template. This is just placeholder information based off of our RAISE grant, and I kept some of the information in here that pertain to it. But this is going to be.
Sorry, what are we looking at? Are we looking at the Safe Streets for All proposal?
Yeah, so this is a Safe Streets for All. So we need to come up with a fancy name.
Grant
And I'm
application.
trying to get my Excel to open up the there's the timeline. So I want to show you the timeline, but this is the narrative. This is the first thing that my computer decided to open. So
When does this do?
Here we go. Final deadline September 15th.
Okay, thanks.
September?
Yep. So we're currently here at T-minus 10 weeks. So we're a little behind schedule, but these are the application, the forms that we need to fill out. Those all get done. I've already completed them, I think, but they get done like when you do it. Then there's something called the key information table, which is found on page 19 of the NOFO. This is something that we are going to kind of do at the end, because really once you work on this, the budget needs to be finalized and the Athens in Motion plan is attached. We need to come up with a good title. So any ideas out there? Right now I just have Athens in Motion implementation. I think there could be a better title. And then the narrative is 10 pages long. I have grants committee on here, but we're probably going to use a consultant for the bulk of this. I've talked with Tool Design Group. They're the ones who worked on the plan in the first place. And they also have people who actually helped develop this, like who worked on things for this grant, who are based in DC. So it could be helpful to get them on board. And these are the sections of that narrative. So we've got overview, location, response to selection criteria, project readiness. And then we've got appendices. And so trying to figure out all the appendices that we need. There's letters of collaboration or commitment, references from the narrative, like towards documents. And then there's also the self-certification eligibility worksheet. We made one version of this that we did as a group, and then of course, and that you guys helped me out with, which was huge. And now, of course, they have an actual like fillable form. And this is where I learned this little fun bit. This is what's implementation grant have two conditions: yes to 3, 7, and 9, which this is a yes, this is yes, and this is a yes. And at least 4 of the 6 green questions, which this is a no right now, the Vision Zero
You have the
resolution.
other 5, right? Yeah.
So we'll have 5 of the 6. But I'm also working on the Vision Zero resolution, as Teresa knows, and that will go through this next. I'm meeting tomorrow with the managers to discuss the agenda item, and then I'll have more feedback at that point to move forward with. So I still need to provide the documentation that we've all talked about, and that's in that other spreadsheet. So I'll get that from that other one. So we're pretty good on this particular form.
Good. So my understanding, if I'm understanding you correctly, the consultant is going to do kind of a first draft on the 10-page narrative, and then you'd want us to review it and provide input or feedback.
Yeah, I think
there
there might be a few sections. I'm going to have a conversation with the consultant this week. I have a meeting set up, and I want to have some conversations with them about, like, in some cases, it's easier for us to do like the overview of the community. And so we could split up some of the, I mean, that's where this outline comes in. For the introduction, this is where we have an introduction for the Athens in Motion plan, description and overview. And then, so yeah, so we want to provide an introduction, describe the safety context, jurisdiction, any high level background that would be useful. That's what it says for the overview. And then under the second one, location, then it goes into the jurisdiction's location. So Athens, Georgia, we talk about Athens, population characteristics. We want to look at like the high injury network or equivalent geospatial identification. So of higher risk locations, we have the heat map. So this is where we start pulling in all these little parts. And I have all these parts spread out. It's just kind of getting them into one application within 10 pages is the hard part. So that's what I'm hoping to get help from on them. And then we'll identify in that meeting whether there are any gaps that need to be covered. Do you guys want to get in on that kickoff meeting?
Do you think we would be helpful or not?
Well, I mean, I think it's always helpful to have multiple ears on something, but
When is this meeting?
sometime this week. I can get that number. I don't have my calendar in front of me right now, so.
I mean, I'm on vacation right now, so I may or may not. It kind of depends on if the wind's blowing on Portage Lake. So
Well, I can
Let us know when it is, you know, and you know, if I can sit in, I'll definitely do that.
cool.
that'd be great.
And I'll find out from them. Oh, go ahead, Jack.
My week is brutal, so probably not me, but I'm happy to fix all the things that consultants mess up.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess the bottom line is, I mean, you need to just let us know what you need help with in terms of whether it's reviewing or writing any of this content.
Okay.
And
Definitely help on reviewing. I will get back to you after that meeting with the writing and which things y'all could help with writing, and we can do that through email.
Sounds good.
From there, there are some things, and you tell me if you want to go into this level of detail, but there is a new tool that was released, safety. You know what? I have a PDF of it. Okay. So I did some various analyses. This is the Safer Streets Priority Finder, and this was shared with me in the webinar about Safe Streets for All. And what it allows you to do is you can input your data. And so we're kind of venturing into the data realm, but this is for Safe Streets for All. So I put in the boundary that we have, our county boundary, and I uploaded our crash data. And you can see this is kind of how those come out and what that looks like. And the lettering is kind of a fatal is K. This is the CABCO system, so you can see what it goes to. The reason it says O and then O not injured, the two sets of data were joined to do this, and one of them just has O and the other one has O not injured. But these, so this is 20, these get merged together. So fatal 68, K 30, that comes out to 98. So just so that y'all have reference for that. So, and then it also calculates crash costs based on 2022 data. And then it also looks at mode of crash. So you can see 99% of our crashes are vehicular. Bike and pedestrian make up 1%. So I removed alleys from the analysis, as well as private roads, but include arterials, local, expressway, all those. This is that breakdown in percentage. So 0.5% are bike crashes, 0.8% are pedestrian, and 98.68 are vehicular. And just as kind of caveat here, these are reported crashes. So there's a lot of instances where somebody gets bumped by a car and they're not injured, and the car says sorry and they drive off. And people don't know to report those. And so we're going to see those numbers reflected shortly up here. This is the crashes by severity. So you can see, for the most part, 75% of our crashes are property damage only. And then you can see as it increases, no worries. As it increases in severity, the proportion gets smaller. So fatality makes up 0.27%, which that's, I think, pretty standard, but it's still a lot, 98 people killed on the roads. That's
right. That's 98 too many.
Yeah. And so this gets into crashes by severity. So this is, I think, the most telling thing. Property damage only is like 99% vehicular. And as we increase in severity, the proportion of bike and pedestrian injuries are increasing. So you can see at non-capacitating injury, that's just where there are visible injuries. Bike and pedestrian are about equal on here, and they make up, I think that's approximately like 8-9%. As you get into serious injury, that goes up. And then fatality, and this is with some data that needed some correction, but that is actually more in the 20% range. So 20% of our fatal injuries are bike and pedestrian. even though they make up less than 1%, or 1.3% of all crashes. So these are some really great statistics that we can use in that. It goes on, it shows you crashes by functional classification. So you can see the arterials have that higher rate of crashes for us. And then it also goes by year. There was a data issue in 2021 that I'm getting fixed. We only had 6 months of the data uploaded and not the full 12 months. And then, so that is going to be addressed, and I'll rerun this analysis. And then they did a sliding window analysis, and this actually looks at hotspots. So they create a window on each roadway and the number of crashes and the severity with a weight within that window, and then it slides. And so it's a half-mile window that slides every 1/10 of a mile, and then you get a heat map based on severity and crash location. So you can see the score, and this isn't really something that I can mess around with, but the score shows that Broad Street is pretty high on that range. Let me zoom in for y'all. In 441, I think this is due to several serious and 1 or 2 fatal crashes on 441 between the motel and the gas station there. And you can see Prince Avenue is kind of up there too. So, this is very helpful, I think. And then it identifies the top 10 pedestrian crash corridors. And so this is the list of those crash locations. I need to look into this more to see how accurate it is, but this is like a beta project thing that goes in, and it spits out some good information. But yeah, here's an example. So bike sliding window analysis. So you can see the worst this really dark location shows this road going down here. That's not actually Hawthorne. This is Oglethorpe, but this is because there was one serious crash where someone was turning left out of a parking lot and they were hit from behind on a bicycle. And they were taken to the hospital, but it happened near this intersection. And so because it happened there, it's showing that crash made that road very dangerous, even though there's very little bike traffic there. And so I think what they're looking at is, oh, well, there's very little bike traffic, but there was this percentage or heaviest weight of crashes. So it's looking at volumes and stuff too. But other than that, you can see the intersection of Baldwin and Lumpkin and East Campus Road. These are all areas where we do have fairly high bike traffic, and Prince Avenue as well. And then here's that list of the 10. So yeah, this is where Clover Street is not one of our top 10 bike crash corridors. There was one serious crash, and it was near Clover Street, but it was on Oglethorpe. But I think because of the road volume of Clover, that's why it scored out higher. But yeah, it goes on. This is for all the other crashes, vehicular. This is much more reliable data because of just the sheer number of crashes that we have. And this is identification of those. So it's a good thing that we got some money for Jefferson Corridor, because that's pretty dangerous there for vehicles. So it's pretty cool. I think we can use this in the narrative. They also made a safer streets model, but I think this is definitely in need of some calibration. This hypothetically, it takes the data and the road characteristics, and it looks for places where they don't have current reported crashes, but they're similar intersections to other spots in Athens that do have high crashes. And so this would if you're looking at that as like a reactive model, for like, oh, we should only do improvements where there is a historical list of crashes. Well, how do you start predicting where the crashes will be? And this is what they're trying to do with the Safer Streets model. So yeah, that's some cool stuff that I think we can use. I'm just refining it a bit. That was something I worked on last week. But I think that can start getting fed into this grant, and I'd love to get some help on the analytics of that kind of thing, Mark.
You know, I guess I don't have access to any of this stuff, so I'm not sure what you mean by that.
I can show you, there's a whole login for it, and
I mean,
they have like how the model is built. So if you're interested in it.
yeah, I'm really trying to avoid working too much so when I'm not getting paid this summer, because I'm really trying to say no to things. So, you know,
Okay.
if you need it, I can do it, but I just feel like I'd be floundering around in there without really knowing the data or what you need, or you know, I'd probably be better off looking at the analytics that you generate and then maybe making suggestions or providing input that way. You know, it's just my experience has been learning to use a new software system like this level of complexity is not a trivial kind of task,
Right.
I'm guessing. And I've never used ArcGIS or anything like that.
Yeah, this is they made it so this is kind of what it looks like in that model. And so they try to make it as simple as possible. The goal here, this tool design group actually made this tool, and I think it was a Denver office. But the idea here is that we could plug in these basic, like our roadway data and our crash data, and then with all of the other models and stuff like that, and this Bayesian statistical modeling framework, that's how they come up with all this stuff. So I don't really know what that means, but
That just means they take into account the prior likelihood of something happening and try to use that to predict what happens in the future, I think.
okay.
So that's all Bayes is. It takes into account the you know the pre-existing conditions. So if something is very high risk versus very low risk, or a street is very high risk versus low risk, I assume that's what they're talking about.
Okay, cool. Yeah. No, as far as like the actual like data stuff, yeah, that's, and we can I guess move over into the data side of things since we need to get going. So
Yeah,
this
but
is
again,
where,
let us know, you know, when you have
yeah.
stuff for us to provide feedback and input on. I think that's probably our best, you know, use of our
Okay,
knowledge of the community and more kind of what our role is, I think.
sounds good. All right, well, this is our GIS data that is going very slowly. And
So are we talking about sidewalks or what?
yeah, so well, this is the bike ped planning data set,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I kind of used in that model. So but right now it has the crashes turned on. Let me turn those off. So these are all of our tier 1 bike, tier 1 pedestrian, actually.
Seems incomplete.
Turn that off and then turn that on, and hopefully sometimes when it has really complicated data sets,
Mm-hmm.
it's really slow. Okay, so the yellow corridors are tier 1 pedestrian, the blue corridors are tier 1 bicycle, and the green corridors are our tier 1 bike and pedestrian mapped out. Once we redo the analysis, these will change, but this is right now what we got, and the grant, the 20 million, will get applied to these corridors, and the goal would be to help basically to prioritize these corridors based off of the safety score they received and focus those. So I actually did another one of those analysis using only these corridors and the crash data associated with it. So that I will get back to y'all. You know, I just like we're trying to figure out like a good way to do this and balance it all. So, but if you're interested to see what the mapped things look like, that's what we got. Yeah, questions on that? Oh, you're muted, Mark.
So do they give us any guidance in the grant about how to assess safety?
Kind of. I mean, that's where they gave us that Safer Streets Priority Finder. And ultimately, I think that they recognize that not every plan has a perfect like look at safety. And so they're trying to make it like we can use the money from this grant to do an analysis like that. I think would be acceptable. Jake, is that what your interpretation was? That we don't necessarily, we could show our tier 1 projects, this is outlined, and we plan on looking at safety analysis.
Yeah, it can be part of the identifying. You don't even have to have specific proposals for specific projects. You have to sort of provide examples, overview, and then as part of the grant, you can do an analysis and determine what specific projects you want to implement. So yeah.
So yeah, so as far as everything else goes, this is actually, so the bike ped data set, it's come along farther. I'm going to be working with our data guy to get the final bit, but there's some cleanup that I need to do within the data. But ultimately, it's going to just have all the info I need for all of our road sections, and hopefully it'll be easier to get this in our next round of prioritization. So jumping back into the agenda, sidewalk inventory and sidewalk gaps. So I've got an intern working on this. Her name's Autumn. She's done a great job so far. And basically, we, of course, oh, okay. So we have collected data on sidewalk locations in 2018, and she was fixing it up and making sure we added in new sections. And then by doing that, she's basically drawing in these sidewalk gaps that are throughout the neighborhoods and kind of filling in gaps between sidewalks. So like, this is a really great example down here of when this roundabout was built. They built all the sidewalks and here's a gap. So the goal here with the sidewalk gap data set is that we'll be able to prioritize based on different criteria, similar to what we did in the Athens in Motion plan, is that we can actually run these through that same tool to figure out, which sidewalk gaps should be factored in first. I want to factor in cost, obviously, because something like this would be a much lower cost than, doing.
And I think the prioritization formula that we have, I think you said before, it includes the length of the project, and so a lot of important key but short projects wouldn't get prioritized. Is that what I remember correctly?
Yeah. Well, and they specifically built, and so Athens in Motion was built to primarily function for arterial and collector roads. And within the plan, they mentioned that, and they said that local roads won't necessarily make it up through, but we should continue to do our sidewalk gap program, which the funding was diverted from that to Athens in Motion before I came on, and so that's something that we basically need to restart now.
Mm-hmm.
So but I just wanted to give you all a heads up on our data collection efforts. and along with it.
Very impressive.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Still have no idea where that traffic circle is, but
Ponderosa. And you know, there is one road that goes all the way through. But I would, these you're not seeing where my mouse is because I'm not the one sharing my screen, but a lot of those things that are effectively no outlet cul-de-sac, they're not cul-de-sacs, but they're no outlet. I
right.
can't imagine making those a high priority, but the road for this to the west, south, that actually Cedar Creek, I think actually goes all the way through to Whit Davis. So like that would be, that's more of a, I don't know what the correct term is, feeder arterial or something.
Yeah, collector, arterial, whichever one it is. And so, yeah, I think that's another way to look at this is like, if we look at sidewalks is like, where is it safe to walk around in your neighborhood? Like on my street, it's a dead end neighborhood. This would not be nearly as high of a priority as Pound Street, which has a lot of vehicles from government facilities coming up and down. And so when we do get into, if we get that funding or whenever we do get funding for sidewalk gaps, I want to work out an approach that actually works for sidewalks and
Right.
make
It's
sure
about,
those are built.
safety and use and, volume, I guess. So, someplace that where people are already walking a lot and where it's currently not safe seems like that would be the priority, regardless of what the length is.
Yeah. I'm just writing this down. We need to update this data, it looks like. Okay. What's next on the agenda?
So this is underway, and the plan is to use this information. If we were to get the funding for sidewalk gaps, that you'd be prepared to prioritize, but you still have to figure out a way to prioritize. Is that correct?
Right. So you can see all the pink is our sidewalk gaps data. So the ultimate goal here is to actually have a comprehensive final view of this is what our sidewalk needs to look like in the future, and then work with planning on that as buildings are developed. We don't necessarily need to require sidewalks in front of a building if we're not ever planning on putting a sidewalk there. So right now, that's kind of designated just based off of the class of the road and the type of development, whether or not they have to do that. And so this actually gives us a better look to a percentage of, how many, how much of our sidewalk network is complete. So either way, if we don't get the sidewalk gap funding or anything figured out, it's still a data set that we need and can use to kind of start making decisions or, maybe even identify the really small gaps that are like 20 feet long. And also working with transit to, because then what we can do with this is I can have fields in there so I can say, is this segment transit related? So is there a bus stop that is within range that this is helping? So then that really helps me look at, okay, well, I know here are all the sidewalk gaps that are within schools, within a half mile of a school. Here's the sidewalk gaps within, this last mile transit type thing. And then from there, we can actually also use that as a prioritization factor as well.
Okay. Sounds good.
Cool. So next on the agenda, I think it was the bike ped data set, right?
It says bike centerline data.
Okay, bike centerline data.
Not sure what that means, but
yeah. So this one has been completed, and I think there's a couple things I need to fix in it. But This is similar to the sidewalk center line. I put in all the bike center line, and I just wanted to show you guys so that you would see it.
So what is bike center lines? I'm not sure. Could you define that for me?
Thank you.
Oh, it's so wherever we have bike infrastructure, like a bike lane, it's just the center line going down the center of that bike lane. If it goes from a bike lane to a sharrow, then it shows you the center line of like, okay, now it's going to be over on the sharrow, and it's categorized as such, so we can actually have it's the inventory of actual bike lanes on the road, as well as separated paths. So I also included greenway connections on here. It's basically, if you look at our road network as like, this is where the cars go and here's their designated facility. The bike centerline data is, here are our designated facilities for bikes. And you can see how fragmented it is, and they don't connect to each other. And so this is the kind of thing that we can highlight, gaps in it for prioritization through, basically filling in the gaps. So blue are actual bike lanes. Purple are non-transportation related facilities. So multi-use paths on campus. I don't have all of them. This is maybe old data from UGA. And then I've got Greenway data in there as well, and Firefly data, and some of the other multi-use paths. Orange are sharrows. So you can see Oglethorpe. This is, our bike route says that we have bike facilities from, from Prince Avenue on Oglethorpe all the way to the Loop, or Mitchell Bridge Road. We have bike facilities technically out to Whitehead Road, but
a lie. It's a lie.
It's a lie. Like what it is they're in there, but they're sharrows. And
yeah, there's a stretch of bike lane on Oglethorpe, and there are some stretches there, but
But yeah, as we replace it, so there's a bridge right here that we are replacing, and that is going to have the multi-use path on it. And so this would then get aligned onto that multi-use path network. And then at the next intersection improvement here at Mitchell Bridge Road, we would likely try to encompass all the way up to that next gap to fill in and finish out that connectivity. So this would switch to purple for a separated facility. And yeah, it's something that I can easily use to illustrate to decision makers and public input things of like, here's where our connectivity exists, and then I can use that easier to kind of fill in the gaps. So it's more effective than just
being dragged kicking and screaming from work.
what's that?
I'm being dragged kicking and screaming from work.
Okay.
But
Jake,
let me know what you need from me, Daniel.
Will do.
Bye, Jake.
See you guys.
The last thing was the thing I sent out to the group for bike friendly community. I attended all the webinars. They're there if y'all wanted to watch them. They've been uploaded. The application is now open, and we have until September 29th, I believe, for the fall submission, or the spring submission is February, I believe. So we initially got our BFC status of in 2009, I think, or 2011 to 2015, and then we renewed it in 2016 until 2020. Because of COVID, all of those were delayed, and then last year they decided that they would change the criteria and add in equity as the fifth E instead of enforcement. There's a lot of other info on that that you can see here. This is where it talks about the 5 E's.
So is the application similar to the application you filled out back in 2016?
I know I wasn't involved in the 2016 one, so this will be
Okay.
the first time for me.
Do we have a copy of that 2016 application?
They make it so that it easily. I have a login that we used, and so we'll be able to transfer the info over.
Okay.
But they also changed a lot of things in this, and so one of the things is an accessibility audit of bike parking. So I could use some help with some of the data gathering stuff that they're going to be asking for.
Sure.
You know, I have an app for collecting bike rack locations, but that's just kind of giving me a rough idea of where the bike racks are, and it includes all bike racks, including private. I feel like an accessibility audit, it would be worth looking at all of the bike rack locations, but we wouldn't necessarily be able to make any changes. We could offer recommendations if it's like Kroger or something.
So they want to know where all the bike racks are in Athens-Clarke County?
It's
Seems
where the
like,
bike racks are and if they can accommodate like a recumbent trike type of bike, like can it accommodate those with disabilities? Are they in the middle of the grass? Like if you're in a wheelchair, you
right.
know,
So, I mean, that seems like a huge effort to figure out where every single bike rack is in the county. How do you even do that? You just drive every street, or I mean, I don't get it.
that's yeah. As I go around and I stop by a store, if I see a bike rack, I take a picture of it and I put it in the collector. Um, so I
I
don't
mean, I
know.
could see doing it systematically, for example, downtown. And campus, the
I
UGA
have that.
campus may be able to tell us, because I bet they have a record of where they are. That wouldn't surprise me, like the architect's office. But
And we
seriously,
have leisure services bike racks too,
hmm
but within the right of way or bus stops, you know, those kind of things. I mean, I think we need to start off with like where are the public ones, like you're saying,
right.
and those will be the higher priority. But we are currently a bronze, and
Which is like a participation trophy, right?
no, there's actually a participation trophy one that we did. That some people felt like I don't know who, but like I've heard that we almost got demoted from bronze.
hmm
But I think I think we're trying hard enough, and we're doing things, and we're partnering with groups, and we're getting ready to really do a bunch of stuff. But
hmm
we don't necessarily want to like overinflate and try to get ahead of where we should be. But
hmm
I do want to report accurately, and so part of it
Right.
is, you know, with education things for, um, you know, like bike classes for women. Like that is something that has been tried before at Bike Athens, um, you know, and it didn't get as much traction. But you know, maybe that's something that if we have some people who are interested in leading that, then that could make it, you know, if that's something that needs to happen, then we can really look in the community to see how we can make that happen.
So I guess I have to question why there's value in offering a gender-specific type of class.
I think it's because statistically, there's not as many women bikers.
Uh-huh.
And so it could be that they don't feel like they could be included in the community. I think, um,
I'm going to tell you what it is, Daniel. It's that women are always schlepping stuff and kids around.
yeah,
So it's, it's usually not an option unless you've got a really great little bike trailer and,
But a cargo bike.
yeah.
Okay. So that one sounds like something we would be more able to take an active role in helping with that application, I think.
Mhm.
It seems kind of more congruent with the Athens in Motion mission. So, I'm going to say I think we should take a more active role, our committee, in terms of helping you gather those data. Now, I guess I just need some guidance in terms of, I haven't looked at this application at all. But if you could share the application with us and then I can get some sense of what they need, and then maybe we can try to, divide and conquer and count bike racks or whatever.
Yeah, or whatever they're, yeah. This is, this is getting into technical details, but I can, this is how to access your old application.
Mhm.
I'm not a robot. And it should have the new application now, and we could take a look at that.
Right.
Um,
I don't have time to spend. I'm already behind schedule a little bit,
Oh.
but I think it's something where I'd rather spend the time looking at it sort of at my leisure, looking at the application and thinking about how we can participate. I'd love Teresa to look at it and get her thoughts on it.
Definitely, will do.
But I think if you could just send us the current application and whatever we previously submitted, so we know what our starting point is, then we could kind of move forward offline.
Right.
Cool.
I don't
I
know if we
will-
can read the document together. That's probably not the best
Yeah.
use of time.
Yeah, this is looking like I could probably add collaborators onto it. In general, I'll say
Sure.
before, what they've done is, do you do this? Yes, no.
Mhm.
And one of the main changes they've made is when you say yes, you have to explain and give context to that.
Okay.
So, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff, but we'll get it figured out. And I sent out an email with the information for the webinars, so it'd be helpful to watch those to see the changes. The last one might have been the most helpful.
I'm not sure that I got that from you.
Yeah, just send that with the other stuff.
Yeah, if you could send it all, that would be great, and I'll start a folder.
Okay, I sent that to the AIM listserv today.
Today.
And Teresa responded. So
Yeah, I did, didn't I? I forgot I did that already.
So yeah, that should be in your email now. I think it went out at 11:43, and it's got some info in that. And I will get more stuff pulled together, and we'll get a more detailed thing with the team that's going to be putting that together. So
yeah, last email. Yeah, okay, not seeing it, but in any case, I believe you
I
sent
got
it.
an email from you on it. You said sure. ...
Okay. I didn't save it. I'm
It's all good. I'll forward this back to you so that you'll have it.
Thanks.
All right. I think that's all I got.
One of 200 emails I responded to
I
today
know.
already.
Just
on my
tell me
frickin'
what to
vacation.
do and when to do it. All I
Yeah,
need is
that's
a little
half the
leadership.
battle.
Yeah.
That's what I have so much trouble with, is figuring out like what to do and who needs to do it. It's half the work. All right, so I just sent that to you.
Got it.
We'll get it worked out. And
Yeah, I didn't see that it included a link to anything. Oh, okay, I hadn't scrolled all the way down to see the bottom to see the 3 recordings. Got it. Okay.
yeah. So I don't think there's any need to start a new application. But I
Mhm.
think I can I can add y'all as collaborators, and I'm hoping then that means that y'all can help me build it. But
Okay.
that all those links, just follow those, and
Sounds good.
I'll send out something soon.
Awesome.
Very good. Saving it now.
All right.
Okay.
Anything else?
I think that's everything.
Great. Well, you have some nice data toys to play with, it looks like.
Sure do.
Yeah, staying busy, so it'll keep me occupied for fun.
Never boring, right?
Yep.
And that's better than being bored.
All right. Well, I'll take a look at this stuff now that I've got it in front of me, and
too.
All right.
try to figure out who can do what, or what we can best contribute to.
Right. So Mark, you just tell me what you want me to do and I'll do it.
Thanks, Teresa.
You're welcome, sir.
We'll figure that out jointly, but it seems like something like the stupid, bike stand audit. Is that something one of your interns could help with? Like go down, walk the streets of downtown for an afternoon and count them up, or?
I'm looking to even see what it would cost to hire a private company to come in and do that type of audit.
Yeah, I couldn't possibly.
Yeah, I don't necessarily need you guys out like on every street collecting, I think it could be an internship if I get a fleet of interns.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, that's what
yeah,
I was thinking.
it gets difficult for sure.
Or maybe on one of those days of service or something like that, although that's, I don't
Yeah.
know if there's anything coming up, but.
And then I'm gonna add you as a collaborator. Which email address you want to put that in chat? Which email you want?
Yeah, sure.
And then Teresa, do you want to do the same?
Sure.
There's the chat. Okay.
Right. And so that might send you a link to set up an account to be able to log in and actually directly. It says allow others to access and make edits to your submission.
You've been added as a collaborator. Yep.
Perfect. All right.
Okay. Good. Yippee. Yippee-ki-yay. Okay.
Teresa's email in there before we close the meeting down. All right. Any other discussion things?
Nope. I think we're ready to adjourn.
Out to the world. If you're interested in collecting data with us, get in touch with me at daniel.sizemore@accgov.com. I am definitely going to need some help getting
You are.
this stuff figured out. All right.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of groups around the community that might be, willing to volunteer or help with this, but I'll have to think about that a little bit.
Do you think maybe Scott Long would have some idea?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have Scott on that. I sent him, it said just to y'all, but I also sent it to Georgia Bikes and Bike Athens. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, I think there would be value in having, locations of bike racks in terms of identifying gaps, where they're needed, but, anyways. All right, good. Well, I got to go. I really, really, really got to go. Good
All
seeing
right.
you
Thanks,
guys.
guys.